In the bustling heart of ancient Athens, more than 2,400 years ago, a man walked through crowded marketplaces and marble courtyards, not to sell goods or preach religion, but to ask questions. His name was Socrates. He left behind no written work, yet his ideas shaped the foundation of Western philosophy. This is the story of the man who taught the world how to think by asking why. Socrates was born around 470 BCE in Athens, Greece, to a stonemason named Socrates and a midwife named Phanerete. He grew up in a city filled with art, drama, and democracy, but also arrogance and political tension. As a young man, he followed his father's craft as a sculptor, but his true talent was in shaping ideas rather than stone. His education was simple: music, gymnastics, and literature, yet his real classroom became the streets of Athens. There he watched people, questioned them, and discovered how little humans actually understood about themselves. Unlike earlier philosophers who studied nature and the cosmos, Socrates turned his focus inward. He asked, what is virtue? What is justice? What is knowledge? He wasn't interested in teaching answers, but in exposing ignorance. His method became famous, the Socratic Method, asking a chain of logical questions to reveal contradictions in another person's beliefs. Conversations with Socrates were fascinating, frustrating, and unforgettable. He never lectured, he only asked. And in doing so, he made people realize how little they truly knew. Imagine him standing in the agora, surrounded by citizens and scholars. He begins with a simple question: what is courage? Someone answers, courage is standing your ground in battle. Socrates nods and asks, but what if standing your ground is foolish? Is that still courage? Step by step, he unravels assumptions until truth or confusion stands bare. This way of reasoning transformed philosophy. It inspired critical thinking, logic, and the study of ethics. Even today, teachers, lawyers, and scientists use the same method: questioning, clarifying, reasoning. Socrates was no ordinary man. His student Plato described him as short, barefoot, and wearing the same cloak all year. His face was rough, his eyes bulged, and his nose was flat. Athenians joked he looked like a satire, but inside he possessed a brilliant, fearless mind. He never charged money for his teachings. Wisdom, he believed, should never be sold. Among his students was Plato, who would later teach Aristotle. Through their writings, Socrates' ideas spread far beyond his own lifetime. Without Plato, we might never have known him. Through Plato, Socrates became immortal. Athens, however, was a dangerous place for truth seekers. The city suffered wars, revolutions, and political chaos. Socrates openly criticized the powerful, exposing their ignorance and hypocrisy. Young people loved him, but the ruling class feared him. Eventually, he was accused of corrupting the youth and of not believing in the gods of Athens. His real crime was encouraging people to think for themselves. In 399 BCE, Socrates was put on trial before a jury of 500 citizens. His accusers demanded silence or death, but Socrates refused to beg for mercy. He stood firm and said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." He told the court he was like a gadfly, sent by the gods to awaken Athens. The jury found him guilty and sentenced him to death. He spent his last days in prison, visited by his friends and students. They begged him to escape, but he refused, saying that disobeying the law would contradict everything he had taught. On his final day, he calmly drank a cup of hemlock, a deadly poison. Plato wrote that Socrates faced death with peace and humor, talking about philosophy until the poison numbed his body. Then he lay down, spoke his final words, and quietly passed away. Socrates never wrote a single word, but his influence is eternal. His ideas became the roots of ethics, logic, and moral philosophy. Through Plato's dialogues like Apology, Crito, and Phaedo, Socrates still speaks to us across time. He taught that real wisdom begins with admitting our ignorance, and that questioning is the highest form of understanding. More than 2,000 years later, his voice still echoes in classrooms, courts, and conversations. Socrates showed that truth isn't something you're told, it's something you discover for yourself. He may have died in Athens, but his spirit lives in every curious mind that dares to ask why.